how's it going? Oh, I had some, like, Bram Stoker Dracula hair going on there for a moment. Oh, it looks very dark right now. I'm try turning on another light. Does that help? Brighten things up a little bit. It's chillier here than last time, that's true. For multiple reasons. Hello, Sharkies. How's it going? It's both chillier outside and also, it turns out, I don't know if anybody remembers me complaining frequently during the last stream that I was feeling pretty warm and that our air conditioning was having trouble keeping up. Uh, but after the stream ended, we're sitting around after. It wasn't very long after. It was only like within an hour or two after that. And going, you smell smoke? Smell something smoky? And I could go around and start checking the air vents. And yeah, the air vents smell a little like smoke, and there's hot air coming out of them, warm air coming out. So, go downstairs, start shutting everything down, shut down the air conditioning, find like a quarter inch of water around our hot water tank downstairs on the ground. Not fully flooding like the furnace room, but just in a pool sort of around it. So we got in, we mopped up the water, and it was not continuing to leak once the air conditioning was shut down. Um, so we got in a plumber the next day, and then they had to come back again yesterday to sort of finish up the fix. But air conditioning is back to probably better than it was before. It just basically needed some maintenance. Nothing got permanently damaged. It did end up being a little expensive overall, but yeah, so just after the anniversary stream, we had a whole air conditioner shutdown adventure. So that wasn't ideal, especially because the day after that, we were very warm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that was a fun time. I feel like I need a little more light. Like it seems pretty dark. I wonder if I've turned the brightness setting down too much or something. I probably shouldn't start messing with it. I wonder if I turn this on facing like this way. Ooh, too bright? Oh, that's alright. Now that I've backed up, while I was leaning close, it was too bright. Not much new with Sharkies. Making progress on a couple projects. Taking kids to swimming lessons. Do they still rank the swimming lessons in like colors? I remember being maroon or something in the maroon class in swimming when I was a kid. I don't know if that actually means anything, but angle this up a little so I'm not staring directly into the. Yeah, that's not so bad. Farmhouse had animals, seal and dolphin, and Books, Brews, and Brews, thank you very much. How are you doing? Mrs. Sharkey made it to blue. Yeah, I don't remember what order the ranks went in at all, and I don't feel like I was ever actually very good at swimming. But apparently I do remember being in the maroon class, whatever that meant. How you doing, BBAB? Did you watch any of did you catch up at all on Friday's stream? Did you see any of the shenanigans we got up to? Trying to stay cool. What's It's pretty cool here today. It has been very hot. It was up to like above 30 degrees, like 95 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that, but today it's much cooler. It's overcast and maybe even going to rain a little bit. Maybe even has been sprinkling a little bit. I don't see any moisture on our like skylight, but apparently it was sprinkling a little out, but I'm kind of hoping it'll rain overnight. We took Bin to the dog park today where he ran around with many other dogs, but he is off in the other room right now. I've still got the setup here. Well, I've reset up the setup for the bingo card. So that's ready to go. You can see the spaces we've already marked off. I think the very first one was Barak suggests violence. Yeah, I think so. Which was not the first one I was expecting, considering that they are in the caves of Ulgoland right now, where they're really not currently at any risk. Bin's at the top of the stairs. But nevertheless, Barak suggests violence. We've also marked off Silk is very sarcastic, which we had to distinguish as, being more sarcastic than just his regular baseline. We marked off Oh Hey God when the spirit of Ul showed up at the end of the chapter we finished. Oh yeah, unusual. What does that say? Unusual descriptive word. What actually ended up marking that one off? Because it was something Relg said, right? Relg called someone something about their mouthings. Their like unsanctified mouthings, I think was something like that. Yep. I chose not to defile the holy caverns with its unsanctified mouthings. I think that's what we ended up marking it off with. There was something earlier than that where we considered it. Or maybe it was the crackling. I think we considered it with crackling vituperation. And then we were like, you know what? That's just a word. It means what it means. It doesn't get used that often, but it's not out of place. But then, like, 2 paragraphs later or something, maybe 3, it was unsanctified mouthings that set us off. There was one before vituperation. Oh, there might have been one that, yeah, that I, like, didn't think was weird, but some other people did. That sounds familiar. Hmm. I'm scanning the page trying to figure it out. Or did mouthings come after the one that got the square? Vituperation and mouthings were pretty close to each other. Unsanctified mouthings. Before that, fanatics. I'm not sure. Sinedra trying to flatter the Gorim and getting caught up in a religious sermon, which she, it sounded like, ended up enjoying more than she expected to in the end, but that was just a entertaining exchange. A serviceable god. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, Judgy Dernick, kind of not able to wrap his brain around people having a different style of architecture, and Sinedra weirdly watching Garion. Other than that, I'm a little surprised that we hadn't marked off really any of the other ones. I guess there hasn't been. Garion hasn't really done anything in the chapters we read. So that crosses off, of, like, that rules out a few of these. There hadn't really been any magic done, so that rules out a couple of them. I mean, Ol showed up, but none of our protagonists did any magic. They've been in the caves, so Petar hasn't had the chance to encounter Murgos. Yeah. I think it's just kind of the location they're in right now is almost too safe for a lot of these to come up. So that's, I think, ruled a bunch of them sort of out. Barak casually recommended violence as a national policy. We had no bard, yeah. Yeah. So that was fun. I ate more of the cake afterwards. Finished off that piece, which took me a little bit of time because it was massive. Had some more yesterday. We've still got some left, I think. It's tasty. Good cake. Chocolate cherry. Two of my favorite flavors. As far as sweets go, chocolate and cherry are both up there. Not always together, but I like cherry flavored things and chocolate ice cream. You encountered a Grim while reading the Two Towers to the kids last night. Nice. All the way into Two Towers. That's nice. That's exciting that you're getting through that series. How has it been? Have you been reading it like 100% or have you skipped anything? I kind of wonder whether I've got it that like built up as this massive sort of wall in my head. Like, it's just too intimidating to read Lord of the Rings again for some reason. I'm gonna have to get in the habit of Relg's voice for remembering it. Haven't skipped a bit. The younger boy has fallen asleep before your daughter, so she's gotten more of it, and yeah, that's all right. how have you found reading it? When was the last time you read Lord of the Rings, I wonder? Because it's been a long time for me. I've read The Hobbit so many times, but I haven't read the actual Lord of the Rings for a very long time. Hmm. I really should. I really should read it again. Whether or not that ends up being an on the stream thing or not, we'll figure that out at some point, but yeah. So, you think it's been 10 years? Yeah. I think that's even still more recent than. I think 10 years. No, more recently than 10 years. Like in the past, like 5 years, I took a shot at it, but didn't follow through. Didn't get very far at all. Yeah, so Magician's Gambit, we are now more than halfway through. I don't think we're. Let's see, we're on page 191 out of 300 and, like, 5? Yeah, 191 out of 305. Um, so yeah, I guess we're, like, just almost exactly 2/3 of the way through. Like, just under 2/3 of the way through. We're on, yeah, chapter 18. The last one was somewhat of from Sinedra's point of view, and I think this next one is going to be as well. I think chapter 18 looks like it's going to be from Sinedra's viewpoint as well. So where we finished off was Rise, Relg, and serve thy god, as Bull showed up right while Relg was full on just being a jerk to everybody. Completely full of himself, self-important, and really not willing to listen to what anybody else has to say, or so I'm going to get started. Yeah. Chapter 18. Sinedra had received an exquisite education. We kind of talked about that last time a little bit. She had been so thoroughly trained that she knew instinctively all the niceties of etiquette and all the proper forms to be observed upon coming into the presence of an emperor or a king. But the physical presence of a god still baffled and even frightened her. She felt awkward, even gauche. Gauche? I think that's how it's pronounced, right? Gauche? Gauche. Like some ignorant farm girl. She found herself trembling, and, for one of the few times in her life, she hadn't the faintest idea what to do. Ull was still looking directly into Relg's awestruck face. Thy mind hath twisted what I told thee, my son, the god said gravely. So when Relg said hastily, he spoke to me in my mind, or my heart, or whatever, he was actually telling the truth. I thought he was just being full of it. Thou hast turned my words to make them conform to thy desire, rather than to my will. Relg flinched, and his eyes were stricken. Oh, before it was awestruck, and now it's stricken. I told thee that the child who will be Gorim will come to Ulgo through thee, Ull continued, and that thou must prepare thyself to nurture him and see to his rearing. Did I tell thee to exalt thyself by reason of this? Relg began to shake violently. Did I tell thee to preach sedition, or to stir Ulgo against the Gorim, whom I have chosen to guide them? Relg collapsed. Forgive me, is that right? Forgive me, oh my God, he begged, groveling again on the floor. Rise, Relg, Ul told him sternly. I am not pleased with thee, and thine obeisance offends me, for thy heart is filled with pride. I will bend thee to my will, Relg, or I will break thee. I will purge thee of this overweening esteem thou hast for thyself. Yeah. That's when you've got a god that is willing to actually step in. I guess it does help sort out some of the obscurities of religion. Only then wilt thou be worthy of the task to which I have set thee. Relg stumbled to his feet, his face filled with remorse. Oh my God, he choked. Hearken unto my words, Relg, and obey me utterly. It is my command that thou accompany Belgarath, disciple of Aldur, and render unto him all aid within thy power. Thou wilt obey him, even as if he were speaking in my voice. Dost thou understand this? I feel like that's a lot of power to give Belgarath. Let's not forget some of our bingo marks. Dost thou understand this? Yes, oh my God, Relg replied humbly. And wilt thou obey? I will do as thou hast commanded me, O my God, though it cost me my life. It shall not cost thee thy life, Relg, for I have need of thee. Thy reward for this shall be beyond thy imagining. Relg bowed in mute acceptance. The god then turned to the Gorim. I feel like that should be, Ul says, put your hand on your head. Ul says, jump on one foot. Sit down. Ah, Ul didn't say. The god then turned to the Gorim. Abide yet a while, my son, he said, though the years press heavily upon thee. It shall not be long until thy burden shall be lifted. Know that I am pleased with thee. It's a little weird, isn't it? Is this all just a ploy? I don't know. People have been getting that feeling of the god's presence. I don't know if you could pull that off with a major illusion. The Gorim bowed in acceptance. Belgarath, Ul greeted the sorcerer. I have watched thee at thy task, and I share thy master's pride in thee. The prophecy moves through thee and Polgara thy daughter toward that moment we have all awaited. Belgarath also bowed. It's been a long time, most holy, he replied, and there were twists and turns to it that none of us could see at the beginning. Truly, Ul agreed, it hath surprised us all upon occasion. Hath Alder's gift to the world come into his birthright as yet? Not entirely, most holy, Polgara answered gravely. He's touched the edges of it, however, and what he's shown us so far gives us hope for his success. Hail, then, Belgarian, Ul said to the startled young man. Take my blessing with thee, and know that I will join with Aldur to be with thee when thy great task begins. This is Relg's worst day. I mean, at least Ul is still saying, like, okay, you've been doing it wrong. I need you to do it right now, and then you will be rewarded. It's not all bad. But yeah, especially when you consider that now Ul is speaking out loud, and that means that basically everyone in Ulgo can hear him. So Relg is kind of getting called out in front of his entire nation, as well as some outsiders. And by his god. Yeah, it's not great. Garion bowed. Rather awkwardly, Sinedra noticed. She decided that soon, very soon, she'd have to give him some schooling in such matters. He'd resist, naturally. He was impossibly stubborn. But she knew that if she nagged and badgered him enough, he'd eventually come around. And it was for his own good, after all. Ul seemed to be still looking at Garion, but there was a subtle difference in his expression. It seemed to Sinedra that he was communicating wordlessly to some other presence, something that was a part of Garion and yet not a part of him. He nodded gravely then, and then turned his gaze directly upon the princess herself. She seems but a child, he observed to Polgara. She's of suitable age, most holy, Polgara replied. She's a dryad, and they're all quite small. Ul smiled gently at the princess, and she felt herself suddenly glowing in the warmth of that smile. She is like a flower, is she not? He said. She still has a few thorns, most holy, Belgarath replied wryly, and a bit of bramble in her nature. We will value her all the more for that, Belgarath. The time will come when her fire and her brambles will serve our cause far more than her beauty. Ul glanced once at Garion, and a strange, knowing smile crossed his face. For some reason, Sinedra felt herself beginning to blush, then lifted her chin as if daring the blush to go any further. It is to speak with thee that I have come, my daughter, Ul said directly to her then, and his tone and face grew serious. Love the angst square. Yeah, we figured that was going to be the free space, but it actually didn't come up during the last 2 chapters. Sharkies are liking cranky Uncle God even more. Also, that's kind of nice that for once somebody is acknowledging that there's more to Sinedra than just being pretty. Like, she has, I think, almost, like, she has always been more than just pretty. But usually when people talk about her, all they say is that she's pretty, or if it's Garion, that she's stubborn. But we've got a god here actually saying that, hey, the fire and brambles in her is going to be more important than her just being pretty. So that's nice, I guess. It is to speak with thee that I have come, my daughter, Ul said directly to her then, and his tone and face grew serious. Thou must abide here when thy companions depart. Do not venture into the kingdom of the Murgos, for if it should come to pass that thou makest this journey unto Rakthol, thou shalt surely die, and without thee the struggle against the darkness must fail. Abide here in the safety of Ulgo until thy companions return. This was the kind of thing Senedra completely understood. As a princess, she knew the need for instant submission to authority. Though she had wheedled, coaxed, and teased her father all her life to get her own way, she had seldom directly rebelled. She bowed her head. I will do as thou hast commanded, most holy, she replied, without even thinking of the implications of the god's words. Ul nodded with satisfaction. Yeah, what the Sharkies are saying. Ul nodded with satisfaction. Thus is the prophecy protected, he declared. Each of you hath his appointed tasks in this work of ours, and I have mine as well. I will delay you no longer, my children. Fare you all well in this. We will meet again. Then he vanished. The sounds of his last words echoed in the caverns of Ulgo. After a moment of stunned silence, the hymn of adoration burst forth again in a mighty chorus, as every Ulgo raised his voice in ecstasy at this divine visitation. Balar! Barak breathed explosively. I feel like that's going to have to make its way onto one of our bingo sheets if we finish this one before we're done the series. Breathing explosively. Did you feel it? Ul has a commanding presence, Belgarath agreed. He turned to look at Relg, one eyebrow cocked rather whimsically. I take it you've had a change of heart, he observed. Relg's face had gone ashen, and he was still trembling violently. I will obey my god, he vowed. Where he has commanded me, I will go. I'm glad that's been settled, Belgarath told him. At the moment, he wants you to go to Rakthol. He may have other plans for you later, but right now, Rakthol's enough to worry about. Ul says, I will obey you without question, the fanatic declared, even as my god has commanded me. Good, Belgarath replied, and then he went directly to the point. Is there a way to avoid the weather and the difficulties above? I know a way, Relg answered. It's difficult and long, but it... Been a big. Saw him for a moment. It's difficult and long, but it will lead us to the foothills above the land of the horse people. You see, Silk observed to Barak, he's proving useful already. Barak grunted, still not looking entirely convinced. Is there a way to avoid difficulties? Oh, I know a way. It's difficult. May I know why we must go to Rakthol? Relg asked, his entire manner changed by his meeting with his god. We have to reclaim the Orb of Aldor, Belgarath told him. I've heard of it, Relg admitted. Silk was frowning. Are you sure you'll be able to find the caves under Rakthol? He asked Relg. Those caves won't be the caverns of Ul, you know, and in Cthul Murgos they're not likely to be holy. Quite the opposite, most probably.
I can find any cave, anywhere,
Relg stated confidently.
All right, then,
Belgarath continued.
assuming that all goes well, we'll go up through the caves and enter the city unobserved. We'll find Ktuchik and take the orb away from him.
Won't he try to fight? Dernick asked.
I certainly hope so,
Belgarath replied fervently. Barak laughed shortly.
You're starting to sound like an Alhorn, Belgarath.
That's not necessarily a virtue, Polgara pointed out.
I'll deal with the magician of Rak-Thol when the time comes,
the sorcerer said grimly. It's starting to rain. I can see it and hear it on the skylight. It took 3 chapters for us to get a grim. Yay, Bard! Have I missed anything else so far? I don't think so. We had something that was coming close to the nonsense argument with Relg, just some of his things, not in this chapter, but the one before. But it didn't really fully get there. Other than that, where is it? Garion is uncomfortable with world leaders. He bowed awkwardly, but he didn't seem particularly like he wasn't not knowing what to do. I don't know if that one counts. Snedra received orders, but did not issue them. Mandarellen just hasn't said anything for a while. So yeah, I think we're about caught up. Ooh, I don't know. Angst. We might have encountered a little bit of angst with Relg. Stiff, maybe not. The whole, like, I will go even though it costs me my life comes close, I think. Sharkies thinks we need better awkwardness. Yeah, I think so. Nothing stood out. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some angst real soon, though, so we've definitely had better angst. We've had people on the prow of ships staring moodily out at the water while, feeling completely sorry for themselves and like they have no family and no one loves them. We've definitely had better angst. Give Relg some time. He might be angsty yet. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some angst real soon. All right, let's see. On that note,
I'll deal with the magician of Rak-Thol when the time comes,
the sorcerer said grimly.
At any rate, once we've recovered the orb, we'll go back down through the caves and make a run for it.
With all of Cthul Murgos hot on our heels, Silk added. I've had dealings occasionally with Murgos. They're a persistent sort of people.
That could be a problem, Belgarath admitted. We don't want their pursuit gaining too much momentum. If an army of Murgos inadvertently follows us into the west, it will be viewed as an invasion, and that will start a war we aren't ready for yet. Any ideas?
He looked around.
Turn them all into frogs,
Barak suggested with a shrug. Belgarath gave him a withering look.
It was just a thought,
Barak said defensively. Why not just stay in the caverns under the city until they give up the search? Dernick offered. Polgara shook her head firmly. No, she said. There's a place we have to be at a certain time. We'll barely make it there as it is. We can't afford to lose a month or more hiding in some cave in Cthulmergos. Did Belgarath suggest violence and Barak suggest sorcery? Ugh. What's going on? Where do we have to be, Aunt Pole? Garion asked her. I'll explain later, she evaded, throwing a quick glance at Sinedra. The princess perceived immediately that the appointment the lady spoke of concerned her, and curiosity began to gnaw at her. Manderalin, his face thoughtful and his fingers lightly touching the ribs that had been cracked in his encounter with Gruul, cleared his throat. Does there, perchance, happen to be a map of the region we must enter somewhere nearby, Holy Gorim? He asked politely. And now we've got Manderalin asking for a map. The Gorim thought for a moment.
I believe I have one somewhere, he replied.
He tapped his cup lightly on the table, and an Ulgo serving man immediately entered the chamber. The Gorim spoke briefly to him, and the serving man went out.
The map I recall is very old, the Gorim told Manderalin, and I'm afraid it won't be very accurate. Our cartographers have difficulty comprehending the distances involved in the world above.
The distances do not matter so much, Manderalin assured him. I wish but to refresh my memory concerning the contiguity of certain other realms upon the borders of Cthulmergos. I was at best an indifferent student of geography as a schoolboy. Manderalin not 100% confident about one of his abilities. The serving man returned and handed a large roll of parchment to the Gorim. The Gorim in turn passed the roll to Manderalin. The knight carefully unrolled the chart and studied it for a moment. It is as I recalled, he said. He turned to Belgarath. Thou hast said, ancient friend, that no Murgo will enter the Vale of Aldur.
That's right,
Belgarath replied. Manderalin pointed at the map. The closest border from Rak-Cathol is that which abuts Tolnedra, he showed them. Logic would seem to dictate that our route of escape should lie in that direction, toward the nearest frontier.
All right,
Belgarath conceded. Let us, then, seem to make all haste toward Tolnedra, leaving behind us abundant evidence of our passage. Then, at some point where rocky ground would conceal signs of our change of direction, let us turn and strike out to the northwest, toward the vale. Might this not confound them? May we not confidently anticipate that they will continue to pursue our imagined course? In time, certainly, they will realize their error, but by then we will be many leagues ahead of them. Pursuing far to our rear, might not the further discouragement of the prohibited vale cause them to abandon the chase entirely? So, Belgarath suggesting violence, Barak suggesting sorcery, and Manderalin suggesting trickery and fleeing. Something's weird. Something weird's going on in Ulgoland. They all looked at the map.
I like it,
Barak said, effusively slapping one huge hand on the knight's shoulder. Manderalin winced and put his hand to his injured ribs.
Sorry, Manderalin,
Barak apologized quickly.
I forgot.
Silk was studying the map intently. It's got a lot to recommend it, Belgarath, he urged. And if we angle up here, he pointed, we'll come out on top of the eastern escarpment. We should have plenty of time to make the descent, but they'll definitely want to think twice before trying it. It's a good mile straight down at that point. We could send word to Chohag, Hetar suggested. If a few clans just happened to be gathered at the foot of the escarpment there, the Murgos would think more than twice before starting down. The escarpment. Let's take a look at our map, shall we? So we're looking for Cthulmurgos is down there. South Caravan Route. There's Rakthol. Where is the escarpment? Might not be shown on this map. Not on our main map anyway. I don't see anything labeled thus. And I don't think it showed up on the map of Ulgo. No. What about the map of the Vale of Aldur, which is somewhat involved in this? Oh, it is on the Vale of Aldur. Which is a little odd because it's all very mountainous. The lighting's not great. But right along here, this line, there we go. This line here is the eastern escarpment. And Cthulmurgos is pretty far south. So it's sort of odd because this map looks like it's all mountains, but I feel like what they're describing is more like plains. Belgarath scratched at his beard. I feel like that should have also been on the bingo sheet. Belgarath scratching his beard or falling asleep on his horse.
All right, he decided after a moment. We'll try it that way. As soon as Relg leads us out of Ulgo, you go pay your father a visit, Hetar. Tell him what we're going to do, and invite him to bring a few thousand warriors down to the Vale to meet us.
The lean Algar nodded, his black scalp lock bobbing. His face, however, showed a certain disappointment.
Forget it, Hetar,
the old man told him bluntly.
I never had any intention of taking you into Cthulmurgos. There'd be too many opportunities there for you to get yourself in trouble.
Hetar sighed somewhat mournfully. Don't take it so hard, Hetar, Silk bantered. Murgos are a fanatic race. You can be practically certain that a few of them at least will try the descent, no matter what's waiting for them at the bottom. You'd almost have to make an example of them, wouldn't you? Hetar's face brightened at the thought. No Murgo mode for Hetar. No, everyone's talking about it, but he's not actually in it. Silk, Lady Polgara said reprovingly. The little man turned an innocent face to her. We have to discourage pursuit, Polgara, he protested. Of course, she replied sarcastically. Oh, and sarcastic Polgara. Everybody's shuffling here. It wouldn't do to have Murgos infesting the Vale, would it? Do you mind? I'm not really all that bloodthirsty, you know. She turned her back on him. Silk sighed piously. She always thinks the worst of me. By now, Senedra had sufficient time to consider the implications of the promise she had so unhesitatingly given to Ul. The others would soon leave, and she must remain behind. Already she was beginning to feel isolated, cut off from them, as they made plans which did not include her. The more she thought about it, the worse it became. She felt her lower lip begin to quiver. The Gorim of the Ulgos had been watching her, his wise old face sympathetic. "It's difficult to be left behind," he said gently, almost as if his large eyes had seen directly into her thoughts. "And our caves are strange to you, dark and seemingly filled with gloom." Wordlessly she nodded her agreement. "In a day or so, however," he continued, "your eyes will become accustomed to the subdued light. There are beauties here which no one from outside has ever seen. While it's true that we have no flowers, there are hidden caverns where gems bloom on the floors and walls like wild blossoms. No trees or foliage grow in our sunless world, but I know a cave wall where vines of pure gold twist in ropey coils down from the ceiling and spill out across the floor." "Careful, holy Gorim," Silk warned. "The princess is Tolnedran. If you show her that kind of wealth, she may go into hysterics right before your eyes." "I don't find that particularly amusing, Prince Keldar," Sinedra told him in a frosty tone. To be fair, he was saying, you don't want to be left behind, and our caves seem very gloomy. He can't do anything about the being left behind part, but he can show her that they're not entirely gloomy. So to me, it feels like he's trying to soften the blow a little bit. Because he can't do anything about her being left behind. She promised to God she'd stay. "I don't find that particularly amusing, Prince Keldar," Sinedra told him in a frosty tone. "I'm overcome with remorse, Your Imperial Highness," he apologized, with towering hypocrisy and a florid bow. In spite of herself, the princess laughed. The rat-faced little Drasnian was so absolutely outrageous that she found it impossible to remain angry with him. I feel like this is one of the few times where somebody's actually found Silk funny. Usually everyone just gets fed up with him. "You'll be as my beloved granddaughter while you stay in Ulgo, Princess," the Gorim told her. "We can walk together beside our silent lakes and explore long-forgotten caves. And we can talk. The world outside knows little of Ulgo. It may well be that you will become the very first stranger to understand us." Sinedra impulsively reached out to take his frail old hand in hers. He was such a dear old man. "I'll be honored, holy Gorim," she told him, with complete sincerity. The exact opposite of previously. She lied. Ulgo ambassador. Tolnedran ambassador. They stayed that night in comfortable quarters in the Gorim's pyramid-shaped house. Though the terms night and day had no meaning in this strange land beneath the earth. Yeah, ambassador to Ulgo, yeah. The following morning, several Ulgos led the horses into the Gorim's cavern, traveling, the princess assumed, by some longer route than the one the party had followed, and her friends made their preparations to leave. Sinedra sat to one side, feeling terribly alone already. Her eyes moved from face to face as she tried to fix each of them in her memory. When she came at last to Geryon, her eyes brimmed. Close. Oh boy, I do not want to start thinking of Sinedra as Lucy. Lucy, right? What's yeah, there's Lucy and then there's Peppermint Patty. Or is it Pat and Sally? Right, yes. Irrationally, she had already begun to worry about him. He was so impulsive. Where is it? Geryon gets cocky. Geryon does something unexpected. Yeah, I think we've got 2 spots about him being impulsive. Linus is the one who waited for the Great Pumpkin. Yeah, but I'm not going to think of Sinedra as Linus. Anyways, he was so impulsive. She knew that he'd do things that would put him in danger once he was out of her sight. To be sure, Polgara would be there to watch over him, but it wasn't the same. She felt quite suddenly angry with him for all the foolish things he was going to do, and for the worry his careless behavior was going to cause her. She glared at him, wishing that he would do something for which she could scold him. She had determined that she would not follow them out of the Gorham's house, that she would not stand forlornly at the edge of the water, staring after them as they departed. But, as they all filed out through the heavy arched doorway, her resolution crumbled. Without thinking, she ran after Geryon and caught his arm. He turned with surprise, and she stretched up on her tiptoes, took his face between her tiny hands, and kissed him. "You must be careful," she commanded. Oh, it says she commanded. Then she kissed him again, spun, and ran sobbing back into the house, leaving him staring after her in baffled astonishment. Is that a twofer? Is that a threefer? We definitely got crying. That one is 100%. It doesn't feel exactly like Sinedra issues orders because, she's saying be careful. Like, that's not exactly giving an order. So I don't know about Sinedra issuing orders for that one. Sharkies wouldn't think crying is exactly angst. No. Except for the part of her feeling all sorry for herself for being left behind, but that's, I think, pretty normal for her to feel sorry for herself there. Sadness isn't quite sulking, that's fair too. That also wrapped up part 3, Ulgo, which leads us to part 4, Cthul Murgos. That's pretty intimidating, isn't it? This is going to be the first time we've ventured into the kingdoms of the Angarax, the kingdoms of the East. But you must be careful is the closest we've had to orders. Yeah, I think this is going to get a little partial circle just up in the corner here, in that we've had something, it said she commanded, so I think technically it counts, but I feel like it doesn't really fulfill the spirit of it. If we don't see Senator for a while, it might be the best we get. There is that, but like I said, I think it technically counts, but it doesn't. It's not necessarily, I think, the spirit of the thing. So I'm giving it a partial, a partial. And then yeah, I don't know. We've got pretty scattered results so far. We're missing Pyrodernic and Silk being a rogue for the O column. And that's, oh, and then for the one across, we're missing Garion being cocky and head injury. And then if we count angst as a free space, we're missing head injury and disbelief in magic. And I think that's it for any that have 3. Everything else is 2 or less. Oh, no, over here. Garion is uncomfortable with world leaders and does something unexpected. I missed that one. We're missing 2 there. So we've got a few 3 columns at this point, rows and columns. Yeah. Yeah, Farm was saying it too. Sharkies are betting we're getting close to a bingo from the O. Yeah, I think so. I think Pyrodernic is just too common, and Silk being a rogue, basically, as soon as, like, they're heading into hostile territory. So Silk is absolutely going to be a D&D rogue. But them heading into hostile territory might make it less likely for Dernic to be a pyro, because they might be thinking it's too risky to have campfires. Plus, they're still in the caves. So for now they're in the caves, but once they actually get into Cthulmergos, Dernic might not have much opportunity to be a pyro. Maybe, we'll see. Maybe he will have opportunities before they decide it's too dangerous. So, a new part means a new map. I could put this down here, but I kind of feel like the other camera, you know, I've got it set larger and it does focus pretty well. Let me just something like that. See if that helps. So, Cthulmergos. There's a lot of details on this map. Your map is again in portrait and the new artist. I'm gonna vanish the chat for a moment, and I'm gonna vanish the bingo cam for a moment. Clear up the screen for, oh, and that's too much light. Try that. Still too much light. Try that. No. Try that. There we go. Lots of details on here. It's interesting that this map is in portrait for you. Because that seems like a pretty big change. Like for this one, like this map, they made it here look much more wide than tall. It squishes the area quite a bit east and west. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that seems odd that they swapped that. You can see Zedar's mountain, which has still got smoke coming out of it on this map. Wasteland of the Murgos, Rakthol, the Tarn of Kruchik? No, it's Tarn of Cathok. Tarn of Cathok. Let's see, we've got Moors of the Murgos to the east, River Cathrog or something, or Cathroy to the south, the Sea of the East, where it looks like Rakgoska is a port. Mishrak Akthal is up way at the northeast. We've got a resupply station in the northwest, as well as the South Caravan route. Yeah. What's going on there? You don't have any indication of the sea? River Cathrog. There's in the north. There's the North Tower River, and the South Tower River, which is where Rakgoska is where the river meets the Sea of the East. Not many cities mentioned here. Really just Rakthol and Rakgoska. And you'll notice that the illustration of Rakthol over here, you've got like this little fortress up on top of basically a massive mountain. Or something. I don't know if that can be considered a mountain necessarily, but it's up on top of a huge jut of rock. So that's kind of interesting. They're talking about the caves under Rakthol and coming up through them. Look at that camera refocus so easily. So much better. You wonder if the new artist was brought in so that some of the maps could be portrait? Yeah. I tried looking it up online, but this is such an obscure topic that I don't think that there is information about why this would have happened. Honestly, I really don't know. Without like trying to like contact someone involved with the publishing directly, I don't know if there is a way to find out why that they did these things. I suppose I can. Let's see. Put the chat back. Take a quick look. Yeah, and it looks like David Eddings passed away in 2009. So you couldn't ask him. Just goes for an answer. Also, an interesting little thing here. During his lifetime, David Eddings made it clear that he and his wife did not want the Belgariad or Malorian adapted into any other medium. From a taped transcript, nobody's going to be permitted to alter our story for fun and profit. We write books, not blueprints for some real swell version of Nintendariad of Pac-Manalorian. Oh boy. Pac-Manalorian. Ooh, jeez. Someone's got a video game vendetta. Yeah, it might be. So it is 10 after 8 Pacific time. Chapter 19 goes from page 203 to 213, so it is 10 pages long. And there goes your Lil Dorn comic idea. It is odd how briefly Leldorn was with our group. He did not leave Arendia with them. He joined them in Arendia and left them in Arendia. So he was really only in the books for a single part. Not even a full part, I guess. Though I think it was a longer section. They were in Arendia for a while. Had a few adventures there. So yeah, 10 pages for the next chapter. What do people think? Should we start our journey into Cthulhu Margos, or should we leave that for Friday? Sharkies think Friday. Yeah, I think I'm alright with that. Farmos is hungry, yeah. Yeah, 10 pages would probably take us close to another hour, so it would be getting close to 9 o'clock by the time we're done. Why don't we leave it for Friday? As per usual, the shorter Wednesday stream. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, that was fun. We got to see Relg somewhat put in his place. That happened pretty immediately. As far as changes in character personality, I feel like Relg's probably setting a record for hitting that character development real hard. So, we'll see how that turns out as Relg joins the group and Sinedra leaves. And also Hetar leaves. And on Friday, I guess. See what Relg's new personality is like. Don't split the party. They have to. And come on, do you really think it's a good idea for Hetar to go into Cthulmurgos? I feel like that would be setting him up for a noble last stand sort of thing as he decides to, hold off an entire army or something like that. Murder spree. Yeah, that would be first. First thing would be murder spree, and then as they're making their escape, he'd decide. They'd all be like, Hetar, we've got miles of an advantage over the Murgos here. You don't have to stay behind. And he'd be standing there in an empty plain, I'll hold them off. That would definitely ruin all their stealth. Yeah, that too. Hetar would suddenly find that he's allergic to cave dust and he keeps sneezing anytime a Murgo happens to be conveniently nearby. But yeah, I don't think we're going to be getting G2 for a while. And we may not be getting I5 for a while, not counting this little technical point. I'll hold them off once they get here in an hour or so. Did start feeling a little like the start of a heist in this chapter with Ulvis the Mastermind. Yeah. Especially once they pulled out the map, We're going to go up through the caves here. The mysterious benefactor. They start explaining what they're going to do as we get a montage of them doing it. Belgarath's 11. Belgarath, Belgara, Garion, Durnik, Silk, Barak, Mandaralan, Hetar, Sinedra, Relg. Did I count Leldoran? And so yeah, with Leldoran that would be 11. Although there was a mention of someone that Belgarath couldn't find, wasn't there? Yeah, Hetar and Sinedra aren't coming for this bit. Though Hetar is still involved in the plans, and Sinedra kind of is, in that her part of the plans is don't be involved so you don't die. But Hetar is being sent to, be the driver, sort of. He's going to make sure that there are reinforcements waiting at the bottom of the escarpment. So he's involved in the plan. If we count Leldoran or this other unknown person, 11, yeah. Or 12, yeah. Staying in the safe house can be part of the plan. heist. I mean, technically, yeah. At this point, it is kind of a heist. A heist that involves planned murder. I don't know if that is your typical heist exactly. Because Belgarath really does kind of have it out for Katuchik at this point. The rain is coming down out there, which is real good. I appreciate that. I hope it doesn't last for too long, but it's good to get some of it. So we'll find out how long it lasts when I'm back here on Friday. And we start we start the heist part of the books. Happy flowers, yeah. Cooling down the weather a little bit. Yeah. So, have a good rest of the week, everybody. Yeah, and I will see y'all on Friday. Okay. See you then. Have a good night. Have a good rest of the week. Bye.